seconds. So, 3, 2, 1. Love Talk Radio.
Oh, and here we are. These are your two show hosts. I'm going to quit calling us co-hosts. We're show hosts. It's like if you come to somebody's house for a dinner party, you're not the host and the co-host. Why have I been doing that all year long? Last year and this year, I've been calling us co-hosts. Oh, for crying out loud. This is one of your show hosts, Dr. Deb Carlin, and
Dr. Charlie Cartwright.
All right. We'll just change it up all the way around. And it's Friday. Oh, my goodness. It's Freedom Fridays. And what Dr. Charlie and I talk about here on Blog Talk Radio and the K Factor, where K is kindness and all the factors that lead to it. And we bring you kindness all the time in the way of good thoughts and good feelings and good vibes and our mojo, you know, the way that he and I get to talk with one another. And we are also the influencers, because when it comes to Freedom Fridays, we really want to influence your thinking and your feeling and your actions about it. And we are a couple of thinking, feeling, action characters. And it's the Friday before Valentine's Day. I love this weekend.
Right.
How do you feel about it?
It's great.
It's usually a lot of pressure for the guys.
Yeah, one of my middle daughter is actually, her birthday is that day.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, she turns 20. So it's always, I never forget it, number one. And then number two, it's her birthday. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's groovy. I love that. That is spectacular. You know, you look like you are, August is one of my favorite months. Of course, it's my favorite month during the month of August because I love every month the most. Well, we're right in it. Lucky for me. And it's got that golden tone. So those of you who are hearing us here on Blog Talk Radio, Charlie's got a background today that is really a beautiful golden, and there's an hourglass behind him. And, you know, it's funny because the way that the sand is in the hourglass reminds me of the pyramids because of the, excuse me, the triangular shape, even though it's upside down. And so it causes me to think about Egypt in ancient times and the ways in which that we say things like, oh, remember simpler times. I don't think there ever was such an era, do you?
No, the challenges were present. They were just different, right? Like food and water, right? Survival was a lot different. You know, they had other concerns and worries. Hey, is there going to be a warring army come up over the horizon, right? And all of a sudden we're under siege for 90 days, 120 days. We don't have all those type of things we have first world problems, right?
Yes, we do.
For the most part. I mean, there are some challenges. I'm not discounting that. However, most people in this country are wealthier than the wealthiest people at that time.
Yeah.
As far as all the things they have access to. I mean, indoor plumbing and air conditioning and heating, and it's amazing. And those are things we all take for granted. Not to mention we can get in our vehicle and get someplace. We can cover 25 miles, right? 20 minutes if we want to. I mean, we've got a lot of advantages over that era for sure.
I like it that you put it that way, Charlie, because when you stop and think about it, one of the things that we really do have, I'm a little off the grid here. One of the things that we really do have is the comfort of time for reflection. You know, I don't know that, I would imagine that it's part of the human condition. We want to be reflective about whatever, or we don't. And it sneaks up on us, right? I don't want to think about that. There it is, it's in your head. But we do have enormous time for play and reflection, as is evidenced by social media activity.
For sure.
When people say, I have no time, really? Because, you know, I admit that I take time every day to be on social media, to check it out, to check in, to make my posts, to read what does my following have to say in response to something that I've done. So when I'm on there, I'm seeing you with no time. You're there too, a lot. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right?
So true. It's just all about how we allocate that time, and we have opportunity to allocate our time in other ways that in past times they didn't, because they were spent so much time, hunting, gathering, or
Yeah.
we just go to the grocery store,
Yeah, right.
right? And we don't have to pluck the chickens, right? We don't have to do all skin the deer. I mean,
Right.
and so we can just all package for us. We just run in there and pick it up. And oh my goodness, took me an hour to go grocery store shopping. Well, that was a day's work back then. A whole day was consumed with that. Well, they went 25 miles to visit a relative, the days for that travel, right? So we can go zip zip and be back home for lunch. And so there's so many advantages to it. But I think that because we have more discretionary time than in the past, it's just so important that we are mindful of that and use it in ways. I think we need to use it one of two ways.
Okay.
We're either helping ourselves or helping others. And
Ah,
a lot of times we can do both. That's the holy grail. But if it's not helping us or helping others, then we're wasting time.
mhm.
You
I
know,
think that we're having all this in the way of our conversation because one of the things that I think, and I mean, this was how I was raised. My mother was a very celebratory woman. So she introduced me to the notion that, there is literally a holiday every single month. So there's a reason to kind of dress up the house and add a couple of colors, and there's a reason to have a whatever different kind of meal, and just wrap your mind around things. And I love that for February, it's a number of things. It's Black History Month, okay. It's Valentine's Day, okay, and it's also Heart Month. So if we take all those things and roll them together and let one theme seep into the next, how about if it's a beautiful month of really focusing on our emotions, the condition of our heart? The condition of our heart is a muscle and is a feeling organism tethered to our brain and the things that we're thinking. And how about if we let it infiltrate that we're paying attention to a particular segment of our culture, and we're all there to learn and to love one another more deeply and genuinely and have appreciation, because that's what we've been talking about for the past several minutes, is having appreciation for our schedule, having appreciation for our amenities in life. you know like how about if the people who say, oh, I can't believe it, I have to go to the grocery store, where is it? Oh, it's like right across the street. you know really? Oh, you poor thing. That is so hard. We can lament and carry on and do all this nonsense. Cut it out. The real freedom happens when you control your thoughts, and you train your brain, and you practice and put them in a good place, right?
it's true. It's habits, right? It's creating those healthy habits, because complaining is habit forming.
Yes. You know what? The saga and the drama becomes a lifestyle.
I remember years ago when I was in college, so we're going way back now, almost 40 years, when I was in undergrad the first time. And I remember, young guy and everything. And so Saturdays were great because I didn't have school, I didn't have football practice, nothing. It was just a relaxing day.
Yeah.
And I used to get up on Saturday mornings, and this is in Lincoln, Nebraska, and they had Kung Fu theater, right? And so it was just these B Kung Fu movies, maybe not even B movies, maybe they're C movies, right? It's Kung Fu movies. And so I remember making a joke, and I'd always say, how long do you think it's going to be before the first fight? And we would guess, 2 minutes or 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And usually it was under 60 seconds, like the movie start, and guys walking down the street, and all of a sudden somebody just jumps out and they start fighting. And so that was the joke, is how long is it going to be before the first fight? How many seconds?
Oh my gosh.
So sometimes there's people that I talk with, they call me or I call to check in, and it's like, man, that first 60 seconds, they're going to start complaining. It
Yeah.
just, I don't care what we're talking about. Somehow we be talking about the Super Bowl, then it gets shifted. How do we go from the Super Bowl to the president of the United States? Or how do we go from talking about a class reunion to the economy? You know, like it just, and so that's for sure. And it's a habit. And I know that people get in the habit of it, they don't realize they're doing it. But the reality is it's detrimental to your health and your quality of life. So
You know what? I'll tell you something. I have been training enough people lovingly, but also insistently with, I'm going to put you on pause. I'm going to put you on pause. Okay, hang on a second. And it takes people a while to get into a different way. But when I'm talking to you and you say, "Oh my gosh, you won't believe what happened," and I'll say, what is it that you want me to know? What is it? What is it? And then they say, "Well, it was just horrible. Let me tell you how ugly it was." And I say, "You know what? Don't, really don't. I really don't want that in my head. But tell me, how are you? There was an altercation of some sort, something. And when people decide to go into the graphic detail, I go, just wait. I get it. Okay. I get it. But you're painting a picture I don't want in my head, and by the way, do you understand that your brain hears what you say and it cements it in there? So when you and I are talking, think about what you're delivering
yeah,
to you as well as to me.
so true. And I think that we've got to really understand, and it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to really ponder it and understand
Yeah,
that our time's limited.
it is.
It's limited. And when we have conversations with people, family members, friends, and we've all thought it, I'm sure, man, I didn't know that was going to be the last time I talked to that person.
That's right.
Right? I didn't know.
That's right.
We never know. We're never going to know, typically.
That's right.
And so there's an occasion where, hey, you're coming into a hospital where that's it, but that's the rare. Usually, you don't know that's going to be the last conversation that you have with the individual. So would you really want that conversation to be one where you were complaining?
Right, exactly.
Instead of conveying, I'd rather spend that time, building one another up, or specifically conveying how I feel about that individual.
100%. And I love that line of thinking. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because there's a host of people who, when we are talking, and a lot of it right now and last year has been phone or Zooming, and when they find themselves going adrift, and I either sit here and look at them like, what, really? Or we are on the phone, they'll say, "Oh, I know you don't want to hear that. I was just going to go somewhere. I know that you don't want to hear it." And I said, "Thank you. I appreciate it, because guess what? Neither do you." It's not healthy. I've been dealing with a couple of really interesting scenarios where there are people who, and there's a common theme with people who come to us because they're in trouble. Whether you and I are dealing with them as a patient of some sort, or a client, or a customer, because you and I both do a lot of different things in terms of well-being and caring and guiding in a business sense, or in a health sense, or personal relationships. And there's always an element of people, and it is 100% lamenting, focusing on the cock-a-doodle-doo as opposed to the zippity-doo-dah. As a matter of fact, I've been having a great conversation. I want your take on this. I don't know if this man will ever listen to these episodes, but if he does, this will crack him up. We're on the phone. We've been friends for years. I mean, not a decade, but probably close, like maybe about 7 years or something like that. Anyway, we're talking on the phone, and he goes, "I just have to tell you something." And he gets real quiet, and he says, "I just have to tell you something. I hear a lot of sugar, but where's the salt?"
That's pretty good.
And he said, "You are so sweet. I mean, you really are. Come on, don't tell me that you never get grumpy. And I said, not so much. I mean, it's not a core part of my personality. Now, can I be wretched and get really gritchy and, like something really aggravates me? Not very often. I mean, anything there's there, I'm going to start immediately starting to process it. I just don't want to waste the time. It's like what you were saying a few minutes ago. And I said, look, if this is our last conversation and one of us goes away, I want us to always have lovely, in the way of recollections. And people do this all the time, that they live in regret and despair. And instead of making the next conversation with the next person lovely and yummy, they're lamenting about it. So anyway, this has been going on for about a week and a half. So every time I talk to him, I try to be salty. And he says, it's not working.
And it's so interesting because it's based on your mindset, right? So we are always looking for opportunities for the bright side, or, hey, here's what I can do, or here's the positives, here's the blessings in that, here's the lessons in that. So always looking for those things where folks on the other side of the spectrum are always looking for what's wrong, what went wrong, what, all those things. And so I always want to get better.
Yeah.
But the first thing I thought was, hey, that was great, or this was good. And, last week I missed the session because I had a funeral to go to.
Yes, I missed you. And I prayed for the whole group you were with.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And, it was, I've been to a lot of funerals.
Me too.
A lot. And because I believe that, I wasn't raised this way, of course, because my dad didn't believe in going to funerals, but I had a manager at UPS that took an interest in me.
Okay.
And taught me a valuable lesson about, he heard me speaking about it one day.
Okay.
And sharing my thoughts about not going to funerals and focus and all this. I was probably 23.
Hocus pocus?
Yeah. And he called me over and he said, hey, because a couple people were talking about a funeral they're going to. And so I chimed in and he overheard the conversation. So he called me over and he said, hey, Charlie, I couldn't help but overhear the conversation.
Uh-oh.
And that you don't go to funerals.
Yeah.
Why? That's what he asked me.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I'm thinking to myself, I didn't want to say, oh, because my dad said, you know what I mean? Like, that's not a good answer. So I said, well, I don't like to go. He said, Charlie, no one likes to go.
Right.
So let me tell you a story. He said, when I was in high school, my best friend's father passed away.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to the funeral. He said, our 20-year class reunion, he told me it really hurt him.
Yeah, people remember.
They remember. And he said, so ever since that day, I've never missed another funeral. So I've had that, and I've been speaking, professionally for 10 years. And so when there's ever an opportunity in training to talk about how to support your family members or friends or people, team members, that's one of those critical times to show up. And I've always encouraged it, for a decade. And I remember when I was at FedEx, I had 150 people reporting to me. Yeah. If you have that many people reporting to you, you're going to go to a lot of funerals if you support your team.
Right.
Dozens and dozens and dozens of funerals. I've spoken about this hundreds of times in presentation. But you know what? Friday was the first day that someone showed up just for me.
What do you mean?
And I mean, I'm telling you what, it's one thing to know about it, to show up for other people and to talk about it. Yeah. But when you're on the receiving end of it,
right,
it's a whole different level. And I remember it was tough because there's someone I grew up with, right? We're like brothers, the same age, played on the same football team, track team, basketball team, all these things we did together, movies, dinners, lunches, breakfast. We did so much together growing up, and now they're gone. And
that was who passed away?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And so my cousin, so I didn't want to go to the funeral because I didn't want to see him in the coffin.
Yeah.
Didn't want to see it. So I'm thinking to myself, but I got to go because the family and I want to support them. So here's my plan. I said, I'm going to go, but I'm not going into the chapel. I don't want to see him in that box. I'm going to stay in the lobby and I'm going to get there early. And that way I get to greet the family and hug everybody, talk to everyone. But once that service starts, I'm leaving because I don't want to see him in that box.
Yeah.
Then I get the call that his wife wanted me to be a pallbearer. Guess what? The universe said, you're going, buddy. You're going in there.
Not only are you going, but now the universe is telling you you're going to do the heavy lifting.
Heavy lifting. Heavy lifting. I'm glad you said that. That's a great point. Heavy lifting.
Yep.
And, I had to walk past the casket. So anyway, I'm sitting there.
Oh, Charlie.
And I'm sitting there like, I'm in a weak moment. Okay.
Yes.
I'm in a weak moment. I'm sitting in the church.
No. You're in a moment of ultimate vulnerability, not weak, because you're magnificent.
That's great.
Said that
great point. So I'm in that ultimate state of vulnerability. I'm sitting there.
Yes.
In the church pew before the wake's about to start, because the wake was the hour before, then the funeral was an hour. And there's a shadow comes next to me, and I look over, and it's another friend, right? Someone that I played high school football with. Matter of fact, we both got scholarships at the University of Nebraska, played college football together. We have lunch once a quarter. I told him about it, but I did not expect him to be at that church. Wow. Guess what?
He was there.
Showed up. And he's a large man, 6'3", probably 280 pounds. He's put together. And I can't tell you what that meant to me.
Yeah, I think you are. I can see it in your face and
your voice. And he hugged me, and guess what?
You start crying.
Well, I got courage.
Yeah. Oh.
Right? Like immediately strengthened.
Yeah. It
was the highlight of the day.
Oh, I love that.
And I can't tell you how much I needed that. And then I knew, because there's been so many people that have hugged me in tears and said, you just don't know what this means to me. And I didn't.
Now you do.
I do.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Beautiful for you to share that.
So it was amazing. And I'll never, you know what?
What?
I'll never forget that for the rest of my life.
Right.
I'm not thinking about, I miss my cousin. It's unfortunate, but my lasting thought is not him in that casket. My lasting thought is my friend showing up.
Isn't that amazing? You just put a whole nother spin on why it is we need these ceremonies and why we should all go and participate, because we never know the beautiful impact that we're going to have on another human being. What a grand opportunity. Does that gentleman know what it is that he did for you? Do you think?
Well, I came home and I made a video while it was just fresh in my mind, and I posted on LinkedIn. It was on a Saturday, so.
Ew.
But I posted on LinkedIn, and he saw the post.
Did he?
So, but I haven't called him yet. I don't know if I could, you
don't need to, Charlie.
Yeah.
Now, here's one of the beautiful things about timing, and it's been a really challenging, long journey lesson for me, because I'm big on contact, and I want a lot of contact. I want a lot of stuff going on. Like, I love it that we're in here every week, and then I want to talk to you on Tuesday. And both of us are busy, so we come in here on Fridays. But what I've learned is to leave people be on their pace. My pace is different. My stride is mine. And so the steps and the distance between them that I need to make are very different from what someone else needs, right? So if you find the beauty in that, what a blessing. What an absolute beautiful blessing. And so with him, he knew That's why he showed up. He experienced you. It's why he gave you courage and emitted his into you. And he saw your video, without a doubt. I mean,
He commented, yeah.
there you go. So all the things that we have in the way of expectations for ourselves and for others have got a lot of mistaken information right in the middle of them, don't they?
They do, but I want to share his comment.
Oh, please. Yeah, please do.
4 words.
Oh,
I love you, brother.
oh,
Got me again.
I bet.
Got me again in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way is right.
So here's something too I want to share. So I picked up my cousin's best friend. He came in town from Memphis.
Uh-huh.
He's staying at a hotel, and so I picked him up at the hotel, and so we rode together, which was pretty awesome. And I grew up with him too, but that was my cousin's best friend. And we're riding, and I said, hey, I've got to, admit something that the last 4 or 5 years, I've kind of, Tony and I, we kind of grew apart. We didn't really have a lot of contact, and I said, I don't know. I said, I texted him, called him. He wouldn't return the text or phone calls. And I just stopped at some point. So I don't know. I can think of us having a fallen out or anything like that, but apparently something happened. And
Right.
he said to me immediately, no, it wasn't you. He said, Tony knew he was in bad health for a long time.
Oh my.
He also knew his mother was sick for a long time. He didn't want to talk about it, and he didn't want anybody to see it. He said, so even I'm his best friend, and he said it was hard for me to get a hold of him.
Wow.
And even when I came into town, he might come and have a beer and he'd leave immediately. Like he didn't spend time with me anymore. He said, so it had nothing to do with you. So I called another friend that we grew up with. He couldn't make it. He's in out of Texas, Houston. He was on the road working. He's in television. And I called him and I told him how the funeral went. And then I told him that story. And he said, man, I'm glad you said that. He said, because I thought the same thing. He said, I thought Tony was mad at me. He said, remember you guys came out to the races in NASCAR. And he said, I thought I must have said something. I said, no, man, we had a great time. You gave us tickets. We got to come under the food tent. You fed us. It was a great day.
Wow.
There was nothing you did or said. He said, well, that's the only thing I could think of is I must have said something that day. Said, no. So that was a relief for him. But the thing about it, if I hadn't participated in that event, had the conversation with his best friend, I would have went to my grave thinking that there was a rift between me and my cousin. My other friend would have went to his grave thinking that there was a rift when there wasn't. So that was another unexpected benefit because I just felt lighter afterward because I just didn't want to have that, hey, we didn't have that bond that we grew up with.
Hallelujah. One of the things, and this is tied into the theme of the month and this weekend about love. And I think that Valentine's Day, for me, it's just a perfect opportunity to, be sugar. To let all kinds of people know the love that's in our hearts, that's beautiful. And just tell people that you really love them, that you really care. And when I think about that, and I think about what you're describing, I think of all the applications of our words, our presence, our emotionality that make a difference for people. And we often don't stop and think about it, right? So yesterday hit me in an interesting way, in the way of something to share. I live on the lakefront. The water is ice cold. I mean, the proof is when you look out there, there's a lot of ice. And then when there's waves, what happens is the waves will wash up, push the ice off the section of the lake and shove it onto the shoreline. So we have these huge mountains of ice called shoves. And I wake up yesterday morning to men's voices outside my windows. Now I'm about 20 feet up from the ground, which is lovely. It's perfect. high enough that you're not at ground level. And so the security is amazing. But I look out and all I see is just the yard and the water. And there are these men walking around the yard, and they are rescue workers. And there were about 8 of them. And then there were another 3 of them. So there were 11 men out there dressed in heavy gear for this frigid temperature, deep snow, and they're tethered together, and they've got an inflatable raft. And I thought to myself, this, dear Lord, is a search and rescue, or actually just a search and discovery. And you know what, Charlie? It really hit me. It captured my heart. It absolutely captured my attention. And then I thought about it, and I was in here, and I'm all the windows face the water, and so I can go from room to room and still keep an eye on things. I snapped a series of photographs because it really I wanted to do something with it. But I got my coffee, and I'm in here, and I'm safe, and I'm warm, and I'm comfortable, and these men are out here risking their lives, and I'm watching them fall and get up, and it's very difficult to trudge through the terrain out there. And after a little while, they're looking around, and some other officials come, and they go out of sight, and then they come back and they go away. And then a helicopter from the Coast Guard comes over, and I'm in my mind thinking about this during the day, thinking prayerfully, someone made a call of concern. Someone's very worried, and it was there was a warmth in my heart of compassion and empathy for whoever was that person, wondering, waiting, worrying. And someone was missing for someone. And so I went through the day, and finally last night I called our local police department, and I had a conversation with the dispatcher, and I said, look, I'm not a voyeur about this. I'm a concerned citizen, and it was right in my yard. Can you tell me what happened? It turned out that they didn't find anyone passed. What they found was an older gentleman who was somewhat not really clear-minded, and who was out walking on the ice, and they were able to get him off the ice.
Wow.
So I put together, I told the dispatcher that I had written, that I had taken snapshots. So he asked me if I could email them to him. So I wrote him a narrative about what the incident meant to me and my gratitude towards the find and towards the men who were out there. 11 men out there in one way or another. They were putting their lives in jeopardy for the rescue of another human being. So when we think that our culture is lost and people don't care, and that, you know, we don't have enough good people in any one profession, I witnessed something that was absolutely exquisite, the choreography and the caring. And, you know, that gentleman took the time to send me a note back and tell me that he had passed it along to the police chief and the fire chief, and all the gentlemen would know, and they would share the pictures. And my note of gratitude and appreciation through observation.
That's amazing. And, you know, it reminded me of something that Mr. Rogers said years ago. He said, you know, whenever something bad would happen,
Yeah,
his mother always told him to look for the helpers.
there you go.
They're always there.
Yeah. What a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah, to a little kid, it made a huge impression on him, right?
I love that.
Look for the helpers.
Well, and here's what my mother would say. No matter how bad it is, there is something in it that you need to discover. And what I say is there's a blessing of some sort, really, truly, because even in the darkest of times, you know, like I took care of my parents for decades. And there are people who would say, how did you do that? Oh, I feel so sorry for you. Oh, poor Deb. And I say, no, enriched woman, girl who found out a whole lot about love and compassion and how to take care for real in a way that really made a magnificent difference on me. I'll never be arrogant about health or life or relationships again, ever. Not in me. And you learn a lot about yourself when you're the care provider, don't you?
You do. You're right. There's just so many valuable lessons, but we just have to observe them
Yeah.
and then really take that in and own that. So yeah, you gave me a lot of things to ponder today. Now I've got to ponder. Which is a great thing. I love to ponder because it just enriches your life and makes you wiser. And then maybe I'll be able to pass something on that you shared today to someone that really helps them in need.
I think that every week that we're in here, what we create in the way of content is precious. I really, I know I say this so often about our episodes, but this is yet another one that I think is really important, and we ought to do a series about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's so important. And when we deal with these very difficult things, it's just easy for human beings to avoid them instead of embracing them and immersing themselves in them. And sometimes, like for me last week, having to be fully immersed in that, I wouldn't trade that day. I wouldn't trade it.
Not for any.
Right? Because of what it meant. And those kids, his kids, he had 3 kids, they're going to remember who was there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They're going to remember.
Yeah.
Will remember. And so they've got one of his middle son is a junior in high school and just a phenomenal athlete. Phenomenal. So he'll have some opportunities after high school to do some things. And I was thinking to myself, I know a little bit about that. And now I think if I offer some guidance, he will listen just for the fact that I was there,
Absolutely.
That is.
It's amazing the things that we do that give us credibility in a person's life.
Yeah. And it's amazing. And I'm not, I know everyone is not in a place and space to be able to show up in that way. And so I'm not bashing anyone that's not in a place where they can do that, but I'm definitely remembering those that do.
Well, here's what I would invite our listeners into. It's called Freedom Fridays. It's all about kindness and it's all about influence. And what Charlie and I are sitting here doing is sharing our reality and our stories in the hopes that we can infuse and influence something with gentility coming forth from us onto you so that you can find a way to allow yourself the freedom in your mind to not get trapped in there, because that's what happened before the event of your cousin's wake and funeral. You were trapped in your mind and you got set free. You were enabled by the circumstance that you had no way of knowing until you were there. So it's much like the author says, you don't know what you don't know. So if you give it a chance, and that's why I do the sugar, because if you're sweet and you're really kind, people then open up. They don't know what they don't know until they feel comfortable enough to let it be, to just let it be, which is so magnificent, isn't it? I love your story because it captures everything about our theme for today and for the month and for the weekend.
So true.
It is. It is totally true. Yeah, it's amazing. So we're going to have icy cold, more snow, wild breezes here in the windy city of Chicago for yet another chunk of time. And you know what? I never mind it. I love it. There's an excitement about it that just absolutely thrills me, which is nuts. Make no mistake, I get it. I really do. But how's it going to be by you? You got snow and all that?
Yeah, It's very cold, so this is really unusual. We haven't had this kind of cold for a long time, this extended. I think last winter we dipped below zero, maybe one day, maybe like dipped and then came right back up. But for it to be extended below freezing like this, we haven't had it for a long, long time,
Yeah.
probably years.
Yeah.
So, and then it looks like we at least have another 4 or 5 days of it, maybe.
Wow.
And then we've got snow for Sunday, Monday. And then, so yeah, we've got the week that it's going to be very frigid. And then a week from today, we get back into normal temperatures, which is in the mid to upper 30s. But we've got so this will be about a 10-day stretch for us where we've had single digits. And then like this morning, the wind chill is minus 15. It's cold. There's not too many people moving around out there. I can say that. I pushed today's a trash day. I pushed that cart out there. There's not too many people moving around. Usually there's people walking and doing different things, but not today.
Well, I'll tell you what, from like December through March, I'm wearing 3 and 4 layers of clothes. I mean, in the house, I've always got on at least 2 layers because I don't want to be cold. I just don't like being cold. But you know what? Here's the other part of it that's absolutely beautiful. You learn about how to layer up what's really comfortable and cozy and takes care of your largest organ, your skin, so that you can be comfortable. And then you're reminded about all the kinds of protection that you need as a human being in nature with the elements and appreciating them. Yeah, I look out the window and I see, there's like 30-foot high mountains of snow out there, which are amazing. It's just hysterical. Interesting. Well, you know what, Dr. Charlie Cartwright, this has been another great episode for you and I. And I think we should wish everybody a wonderful, happy Valentine's experience. Just go and romance everybody in your life, your parents, your friends, your coworkers. Yeah. Somebody you got a crush on, let them know. And have a good one, Charlie, and hang here with me for a minute, okay?
All right, you too. Thank you.
Yeah, so peace out, everybody.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
So we've got another goodbye to make because we're behind the scenes now with the camera rolling. So if you're still here with us, what are your final words of wisdom, Charlie? Because we actually have a little bit more time here. So our Zoom audience, our YouTube audience gets an extra chunk of Charlie.
Yeah, I would just say this, that it's so important not to leave things unsaid. Not to leave things unsaid, and that vulnerability is a real thing, and being open to that.
Yeah.
Because here's the reality of it, is that when you make sure that you don't leave things unsaid, you're not going to be hurt by that. You're not going to be injured in any lasting way because you were vulnerable or because you shared your true feelings. No one's going to think less of you. People will think more of you.
Right.
Because of it. I remember so many thoughts around these events. And that Friday I was thinking, hey, my cousin's best friend, I've known him since kindergarten.
Wow.
So that means more than 50 years.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, in all those years, never seen him cry. Well, that's going to change today, right? I knew that.
Yeah.
So, of course, we're teary-eyed, driving, talking all the way up there. And then he spoke, which, man, he gave such a great speech and spoke directly to the family. It was just amazing. And I was like, wow, his composure, and he's talking directly, speaking to the kids and the wife, and, in front of the whole church. And he sits down. I was like, man, this guy I know he's a leader. He works for Ford Motor Company, but, he's not a professional speaker, but he did a great job, and I'm thinking. And so then the funeral ends, and we carry the casket out and put it in the hearse, and we push it in there. And then he walked away, and I saw him walking away, and I'm like, I wonder where he's going, because we've got to still go to the military. He's a Leavenworth. We had to go drive Leavenworth, and he had that military ceremony up there. And he walked away, and he went between two cars and broke down. And I'd never seen that. And you know what? It's okay. And so that is part of it, is that we do what we need to do. And at the same time, we're human beings. And it was just, as hard as it was to see, it's a beautiful thing in retrospect, because, hey, their relationship meant a lot.
And his dignity in that moment was beautiful. It was exquisite.
Beautiful. And his relationship meant a lot. And so he showed up all the way to the end. And it was just such a great lesson for me. I mean, he drove 10 hours to get here. Okay. And it was just an amazing thing to witness, and it's a lasting impression.
I'm reminded, and I thought about this a couple different times during our conversation. I really love Dr. Joe Dispenza. I love his work. I love the body of work, the overlap that he and I have in our studies in terms of neuroscience and relationships. And one of the things that he said that really struck me, because I'm watching his videos and I'm just going through all of them. There's one he's saying, why you can't find love. And I'm thinking, I know how to find love. He's talking about, yes, I do. Yes, I so can. And then I thought, okay, what does he have to say about this? So I'm watching and listening. And, the thing I love about him, and I think what everybody loves about him, is he's such a natural speaker. So he's speaking and he said, what do people want to be in love? They just want to be in love. Well, yeah, we like the rush, we like all the stuff that comes with it. But what we really want is we want to be happy. We want happiness. So how are you going to be happy with somebody else unless you're happy with yourself? You're going to lay it on them. Make me happy. No, wait, no, come to me happy. I am happy. Now, here, we'll make a deal. I'm happy. Come to me happy. And then together, it's exponential. It's really groovy. And then, so I was really getting off on that. I thought, this is wonderful. And then he says, and by the way, if you have to work on the relationship, get out of there. It's not about work. Now, this is different than what everybody says. But, there are people, and we started off on this in the beginning of the show, the people who do the lamenting. There are people who have been in couples counseling, in therapy, since they were dating. And then their therapist tells them if they should or shouldn't get married. And, what are you doing? If it is that much work and agony, then you're not free flowing in it. Just go in and do. Be happy. Be wonderful. I remember a good friend of mine, Ron Williams, who, he and I were doing the Daily Show for months, and then, schedules shift and priorities and all that. We'll resume another show with another theme to it. But one of the things I heard him say, he's been an ongoing CEO of different health companies. So he's up in front of the audience. There's probably, I don't know, just 50 or 60 people in the room. And he starts talking. He's this very handsome, very healthy guy. And he gets up in front of the room and, people just love him. He's got a great charisma about him. And he's talking about well-being. And he said, in all of our life, bring your best. And when it's a love affair, don't bring me the box of junk. Like, hi, honey, here I am. I got gout and I got, and you list off all your sicknesses and your lamentings and I'm depressed and I suffer from panic. Don't. Bring me your best because I need it. I've worked hard for me. You work hard for you. And let's bring one another our best. And you know what? When we do that, what a beautiful, groovy, glorious experience we get to have. And if we do it not just, well, you know what? Let me rephrase that. I was going to say we do it not just in our love affair. How about if every relationship we have is a love affair? How differently do we treat everybody in the world when that's the deal?
It's true.
Isn't that something to think about? Yeah. So on that note, what else you got?
Well, enjoy the friends and the family that you have, and because they're precious possessions, and
Yes.
you just you have to enjoy every moment and really cherish every moment and make it the best you can. I think that that's just so true, and really appreciate the little things. My brother-in-law stopped by last night. He wanted to get an adjustment, and so he's coming from the gym, but we ran over to Chipotle and got some food and shared a meal and just talking. And that was 30 minutes out of the day, but those are precious moments. You don't know I don't know how many more dinners we get to share or conversations. And so I genuinely appreciate every single one of them.
I think that's awesome. All right, Mr. Charlie, Dr. Charlie, Master Charlie, hope you have a wonderful day and a great weekend, and take good care of yourself, staying warm.
All right, you do the same.
All right. Peace out, everybody. You got the little extra tidbit of a few more minutes on the back end of the show that they'll hear on Blog Talk Radio. So until next time, this is your hosts here, Dr. Charlotte Cartwright and Dr. Deb Carlin, saying peace out, love openly, be vulnerable. It's a groovy thing.